Okay, let's talk about those great new document cameras you have in your classroom. The first thing you're going to want to do is download the software. If you go to the document I sent out, there's a link there for you to follow. You're going to go to the Downloads tab and you'll see the first thing underneath the Windows section, A+ software. Go ahead and download it, run the installer, and keep all the settings the same. And you'll see an icon, Sphere 2, on your desktop. This is what you're going to use. Open it up. Don't panic just yet. Make sure that you've turned on your camera, and then in the background what it will do is download some drivers. So it might take a second because first the camera has to warm up and turn on, and then it goes through all of these background processes the first time you use it. But after the first time it should be much quicker. So if you see that connecting screen, that's a good thing. And then you'll see, hey, we've got a picture. We are in business. So we have all these options as far as just what the display looks like. We can autocorrect for things like brightness. We can zoom in and zoom back out, which is a pretty handy feature. It helps you focus in. We'll talk more about that in a second. You can also rotate the image, so if you are space constrained, you don't have to worry about where exactly it goes because you can flip the image within the software. And then we get to some of the cool stuff. You have all kinds of options for things that you can do to write on the screen. And I'm going to demonstrate this with a student paper. Maybe you want to pull it up as an example. And then maybe you want to say highlight. I want to highlight something in that paper that I want to point out to the rest of the class. I can change the color to be yellow, and then I just click and drag, and I don't have a very steady hand. It's a little bit easier if you're zoomed in more. You can also do things like type comments, so you can click and make a text box and type your comment. You can also change the color of the comment, and you can click and drag it around. So I accidentally typed off the screen, no problem. All I have to do is click and drag it over to where I want it to be. There are a few other options. You can draw shapes, you can erase things that you've already put on there. If you decide you don't want to use that, you can just use a regular drawing tool if you want to highlight or circle something and say, hey, this is what you got on the rubric. And then you can undo something if you make a mistake. So all of these tools are super useful. We'll talk about some ways they can be useful in just a minute. You can also draw lines and arrows and all kinds of cool stuff. And let's say then we can then erase individual things. So I clear my screen off. Let's say I want to make a video. This feature lets you record what's going on the camera. You can do it with or without audio. You can even do it in slow motion, which is kind of cool if you want to do a science experiment up there. And all you have to do is hit that record button, stop it when you're done, and it will automatically create a movie for you, which will pop up in just a second. It's a regular old movie file, so you're able to embed it in things like a PowerPoint or upload it to YouTube if you want. So that's super cool. You can also just take a picture. Say I wanted to take a picture, or once I had done all of that annotating on whatever I'm showing, I can either take a picture of the whole thing or just part like I did here if I want to just highlight what I have. So you have options for just a regular old picture, an HD picture, or selections. And then here's the presentation tool, so you can click and drag things down one at a time to focus your students on exactly what you want them to see without distracting other things. You can also highlight using a shape, so you can adjust the size of that shape. You can also change what shape from a triangle, rectangle, or circle. You have options to do transparent, semi-transparent, or not transparent at all. So let's say I want to highlight just a paragraph. I can click and I can drag to resize what exactly I'm zooming in on. So again, it's a good way to keep students focused on just the thing you want them to focus on at the time. Another good use for this camera might be to use exit tickets, and you could take questions students have from the day before and project them up to start off the conversation and clear up any misunderstandings before the next one. Of course, you can also demonstrate manipulatives, so it's a great way of giving everyone a good view of what's going on and sharing with them exactly what your expectations are. This could also apply to work you want them to do in centers later, where they might be cutting and pasting. So right now we have it in a mode where it's easy for me to see all of my tools, but it's not the most useful. We can click that upper right hand corner and make it full screen so it's even bigger for the students and takes up the whole space. So that way everybody can really see all the details of what you're doing. You don't have the classroom management issue of having everyone try to gather around and see what you're doing. And that way everybody is happy. And again, we can use the rotate tool to make sure that everything shows up on the screen the way that we want it to. So I'm going to go ahead and click on rotate here. There we go. Happy faces. One last thing I want to show you is how to use these with read alouds. So you can obviously put a book under there and project it up so that, again, instead of holding it up and everyone straining and saying, I can't see the pictures, you can show everybody what you want to show them. You can point out specific things. So say, for example, there's a picture on the page and you want to point out something on that page, you can go ahead and zoom in. So again, I went to my tool button, press to zoom in. Maybe I want a closer look at that little dog at their feet. I zoom in a few times to do so. I can then click this button to go back to the original size that I want to go to. The annotation tools are great for this as well. You can use a line to underline a specific sentence you want to point out. You could use the highlight tool to maybe point out a vocabulary term that's new for them. You could even type in a definition for that term on the page if you wanted to. And then you can, if you really wanted to, you can set it up so that you have two side-by-side images. You can use your webcam on your camera. So if students are giving a presentation, for example, they might want to show something one side and have their image on the other. Or if you're setting up something for a student who's not there, maybe they'd be more comfortable seeing your facial expressions and not just listening to you talk. So you can also take an image to use for later, and it will keep whatever you've drawn or written on the page as part of that image, which is pretty awesome. So again, you can see the possibilities, and the document camera has lots of awesome tools to use. Please ask if you want some more help with them.